Okay, guys, so in case you've been living under a rock and you haven't really heard the news that broke over the weekend concerning Vince McMahon and WWE, apparently Vince McMahon made it clear that he no longer wants any of his talent that uses social media outlets outside of WWE utilizing them anymore. In other words, he doesn't want talent utilizing Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. He doesn't want them involved with it anymore. Now, of course, when this broke, it made a lot of fans and even those that used to work for WWE upset. It's like, how dare you make this decision concerning everybody else's lives? You say your wrestlers are independent contractors, but this just proves otherwise, and that they're not independent contractors, and that instead they're actual employees. Heck, former presidential candidate for this year's presidential election, Andrew Yang, weighed in on the situation and basically stated that he wasn't happy with the way Vince McMahon was making decisions and was outright lying about the fact that his wrestlers are independent contractors and not what they actually are, and that's employees. So basically yesterday, to combat this, WWE came out, and as reported by various sites, sounds like they retracted and reworded what they were originally saying, or what Vince McMahon was saying. And instead, they corrected themselves by stating that what they're actually pointing out is WWE is like Disney and Warner Brothers, and they own, and the fact that they own the rights to the on-screen and in-ring names utilized by the men and women when it comes to the program. So, in other words, what they're trying to state and correct themselves with is they no longer want their talent using their on-screen names to promote the social media sites they're on outside of WWE, and instead would rather them change it maybe to the real names or a different name that WWE doesn't own the rights to, which would explain why Paige and Xavier Woods changed their names back to the names of the Twitch channels and social media sites or outlets to their real names. So in other words, Paige is now going by her real name of Sarah. I think that's her name. And that, Xavier Woods is going by his real name of Austin Creed. Now, upon hearing this, you know that a lot of fans started to rip WWE a new one for the fact that this, as I mentioned earlier, basically goes against what WWE says about the superstars, and that being independent contractors. Because basically, and I will agree with this, if WWE looked at their superstars as independent contractors, they wouldn't have a problem with the superstars going outside of WWE to promote themselves or to get over with a different audience. But this decision here proves otherwise. Now, some will come to WWE's defense and say, well, they are right. I mean, when they corrected themselves, they are right that they do own the rights to the names. Well, they don't own the rights to all the names. I mean, for example, AJ Styles, Alan Jones, I'm sure owns the rights to the AJ Styles name. So I don't think they can prevent AJ Styles from using Twitch under the AJ Styles name, since that's how he came in and that's how he was known even before WWE. So I don't think they can try to basically force him to change his Twitch channel or YouTube channel or social media sites to Alan Jones, because they don't own the rights to AJ. I mean, there are certain names that WWE does not own the rights to when it comes to superstars that are under contract to them. Are they expecting Jeff Hardy to change his name to something else since they may believe they own the Jeff Hardy name? Of course not, because Jeff Hardy took that name with him no matter where he went outside of WWE, whether it was TNA, Ring of Honor, Japan, you name it, he was still Jeff Hardy. That's his real name. He owns it. So I think basically what WWE was trying to do is save face here. But again, a lot of individuals, from just Alex, formerly known as the Lex Man, Alex Hicks, to Jerry, known as JD from NY206, Monster, I'm sure already has ripped him a new one on this. Good mic work, I'm sure is going to do the same thing. I mean, everybody that's heard about this, either through Twitter, Facebook, or eventually YouTube or Twitch, is going to come out and rip WWE a new one on the fact that, hey, this decision that you made just flies in the face of you saying that your wrestlers are independent contractors, when this just proves that they're actually employees and not independent contractors. And again, this also brings into the fact that Andrew Yang, a high politician in the States, in the country, a former presidential candidate, is now basically, looking down the throat of WWE's chairman, Vince McMahon, and saying, hey, I'm calling you out. I'm calling your BS on this. You either got to correct what you say about your wrestlers being independent contractors and say exactly what they are, and that is employees, or you got to let them be independent contractors. You got to prove they're independent contractors by letting them do stuff outside of the company. So yeah, this decision here, it doesn't paint WWE in a good light. Like I said earlier, with AEW continuing the match with Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara, and how they didn't just stop it there and decide to continue the match at a later date, doesn't make it look good for them. This decision here, by basically having superstars not being able to utilize their names, their in-ring names or anything outside of WWE when it comes to like other platforms, just proves, hey, WWE, you're a bunch of liars. Vince McMahon, you're a liar, you're a hypocrite, and that your independent contractors, your superstars, are actually employees. So yeah, this is also one of those decisions where fans are like, yeah, Vince, I think it's time for you to go because you don't get it. This is not the 80s, this is not the 90s anymore, this is 2020, and things have changed to a point that it doesn't matter, it's not going to hurt if someone decides to use the in-ring persona's name to get themselves over on another platform. So yeah, it's not, it doesn't paint WWE and mostly Vince McMahon in a good light. I mean, some may say that, well, it's not that big of a deal. All WWE is stating the obvious. They're just stating that, hey, we own the rights to the names and the characters, but that doesn't mean we're not going to allow the actual person behind the character to still have a life outside of our company. That might be true, but you know what? If WWE and Vince McMahon was against this, for quite some time, why didn't they just come out and say it? Why don't they, and they probably will now, add it to the contract that states, hey, if you do something outside WWE, you got to use your real name and not your in-ring name that we give you. So yeah, WWE, this decision doesn't make them look good, doesn't make Vince look good, and they really got to make it more clearer and I'll put it this way. They got to make it more definitely clearer to talent, to fans, and anybody else involved with WWE that, hey, you can go and utilize social media sites like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and wherever, but you can only do it under your real name and not your WWE persona. Now, apparently, I will say that a lot of men and women in WWE have kind of gotten ahead of the curve here. Even before this decision was made, they got ahead of the curve. I mean, you look at Asuka on YouTube, she uses her real name, or at least her name outside of WWE. You take a look at, as some people point out, Paige and Austin Creed, like I said earlier. Paige is gone and changed her Twitch channel to her real name. Instead of being Paige Official, it's now her real name /official. Austin Creed, the same thing. He's no longer going to have to go by Xavier Woods on social media. He's now going to be Austin Creed. Which, again, it does get them around the curve. But still, WWE, if they had been against this the whole time, needed to make that a lot clearer to the talent. So, yeah, fans are not happy about it. People that used to work for the company are not happy about it. And there are some, and even Andrew Yang, a former presidential candidate for this year's presidential election, is not happy about it. But yet there are some that are like, look, it's not that big of a deal. The catch is it's the intellectual property of WWE that they can't go by with these outside media outlets. But it doesn't mean they can't still do them. All they have to do is just change it over to their real name or a name that WWE doesn't own the rights to. So yeah, that's basically about it. So anyway, though, guys, I just thought to give my thoughts on it. I think, WWE needs to make it more clear to the talent that they signed a contract or they re-sign or whatever, or at least have some kind of meeting at future tapings and all that. They need to make it clear that, hey, you can have your social media sites outside of WWE, but don't use the names we give you. Use something different or use your real name. That's what they need to make clear. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the whole situation, and I'll talk to you all later.